All right, hello, welcome everybody. Gonna wait for some people to come on in. We're really excited about today. So just give it a little bit of time to let you guys come on in, and I will get started shortly. All right, hello, welcome everybody. Gonna wait for some people to come on in. We're really excited about today. So just give it a little bit of time to let you guys come on in, and I will get started shortly. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Um, so excited to be here today for Rebrand or Refresh, a decision framework. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shannel Wheeler. I have been a graphic designer by trade for a little over 20 years. But along my career journey, I have grown to add branding, creative direction, teaching, and project management into the mix because I just really love helping people create with purpose. And I also just want to create with excellence as well. And so, because I've learned so much from all these various experiences, actually doing the work and successfully executing these larger brand projects for different types of companies, I really want to share some of what I've learned with you today. And so, that's what we're here for. Rebrand or refresh decision framework. Let's get into it. So, really, today's question is, should I rebrand or should I refresh? Well, the first question is, what does that even mean? What is brand? What is refresh? What is rebrand? Let's go ahead and define that. Then I'm going to help you determine if refreshing or rebranding is something that you should consider for your business or for your company that you work for and why. And then finally, what you can do with all these insights to determine if this is something that you need to do to move forward. All right. So I do have a few rules today, but they're like really, really simple. Number one, please just relax. This is lunchtime, so hopefully you've got your beverage or your nice lunch, and you can sit back and hopefully learn something new today. Please feel free to participate and add your thoughts to the comments. Feel free to take notes, but also know that I will be providing some helpful resources for you at the end. So I hope you'll stick around for that. And this is my first LinkedIn Live, so please send your positive vibes this way. But also, if I happen to miss any of your questions or comments, I'm going to be sure to follow up and answer them once this live is over with. And then, really, just evaluate and really think truly about if your unique brand situation for your company or business, if this applies to anything that you're doing personally or for your business. And reflect on if anything that I'm sharing with you today might inspire a call to action within you now or maybe in the future to make those necessary changes for growth. So just really think about that and evaluate that. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I have had the privilege of being fully entrenched in the process of building a brand from the standpoint of strategizing, ideation, creative execution, and marketing and sales collateral, and really just helping to maintain that visual identity once that brand is established. And I have worked with directly these companies to help them brand, rebrand, or refresh so that they can obtain better alignment for where they are trying to go. And so, yes, I am showing you a bunch of logos, which I think a lot of people have made synonymous with the word brand. But there's an important question that I want to ask you. And really, that question is, what is brand? I would love for you all to add your input of what brand is to you in the comments. Because I personally believe that this word has been overused, overworked. We're just always hearing the word brand. It's almost lost its meaning in some ways. But I really want to come back and simplify it and really break it down for you today. So, of course, some ways we think about brand is that we're thinking about the actual logo, we're thinking about a company or a product or a service. We can even take it back old school and think about actually branding of livestock, that type of brand. There's different ways that we traditionally think about it. And it's also very unproductive ways that we've been thinking about brand as well. Like, we can worry about this later. That doesn't really pertain to our business. Only the marketing and the branding team or the creative team, they need to worry about that, not us. It's not important right now. Just all these kind of misconceptions about brand. But I'm actually here to tell you what brand actually is. So, drum roll, please. What is brand actually? Well, I think brand is a pie. Yeah, I'm serious. And maybe I'm thinking about pie because it's lunchtime and I'm hungry. I don't know. But just hear me out. I think brand is a pie because of the way that you can slice it. And I really want to simplify this for you to help you think about brand in a different way. So, what is brand? In a nutshell, it is perception. And it's really based on collective factors, which are these on the screen. So it's really about the personality, the culture, the core values, the experiences, the messaging, and the visual identity. All of these factors are going to work together or against each other to help shape that perception of your company. And I really want to debunk those myths of it's only for the marketing and branding department to work on, or if this is not important for us, or this isn't relevant to me or my business. I want to debunk those myths right now through this brand pie because it really is a collective thing that really encompasses the whole company and really affects the whole company. And so let me just give you a quick run through of what each of these different slices of the pie mean. And so the core values, this is going to be like the fundamental beliefs or principles that are going to help guide how your organization is going to make those really important decisions. So it's really like the foundation of the integrity that you should not compromise. And so these are internal guides like in words, or phrases like maybe integrity or research or empathy, whatever the things that you really hinge on that are not that you won't compromise when you make these important decisions. Those are your core values. Then there's your personality. It's the attributes or the qualities that describe the person or the organization and its character traits. So, are you comical? Are you very serious? Are you astute? What are those personality traits that often influence the behavior and the messaging and the visual appearance of that company or brand? Then there's the culture. These are like the behaviors and the interactions of the employees in the business or the members of the organization. How did they actually behave and interact with one another? And really, this can even expand beyond the company because sometimes this brand can become so big that it can influence culture locally or nationally or even worldwide. We can think about brands that have definitely done that on a larger scale. Messaging. How is our organization going to talk about ourselves, our product, our service, our products, our customers? How are we going to do that? We can do that through written or verbal communication. So how do we actually talk about ourselves? Then there are the experiences that we curate. It's all the interactions with the people, the products, the services that represent the brand. So all these things, the look, the smell, the feel, the energy, the atmosphere, all the places and spaces that people interact with your company or service that represent the brand, those are the experiences that are created. So whether it's on the phone with customer service or actually in store with the employees, there's always these experiences being created. And then, of course, there's my favorite part, which is the visual identity. This is really the visual expression of all those other parts of the pie. So it's the logo, it's the colors, the typography, the graphics that you use, the photography, the marketing collateral, the visual advertising, how all these things are visually expressed, how we're going to visually communicate what we believe in and what we do outwardly to our customers and to our prospects. Now, the question is, can different people have different perceptions of a brand? And the answer is absolutely yes, they can. And the really important thing to know is that we can't control what people think about our company, right? A perception, it can't be controlled, but we can definitely work to shape it and guide it in a particular direction, depending on how all of these factors work together in our brand pie. So let's look at this and think of this pie as like an analogy of you getting your favorite pie. Let's assume that you like pie. So let's say you were going to the store, you really had your mind set on your favorite pie. Let's say it's apple pie, and you're like, I'm going to the store. I cannot wait to get home and dive into this apple pie. I've been thinking about it for a week. So excited. You get home after you buy this pie, you open it up, you take the first slice, your mouth is watering, and when you slice into it, you actually realize that the pie is a, has a peach. It has peaches in it. It's like a peach slice, and you're like, "This is not what I expected." So then you cut another slice, and that slice is apple. But then you cut another slice, and then you see like maybe rhubarb or cherry or something, and it's really confusing because maybe for some people this might be a pleasant surprise, but for most, if you were having your mind set on that apple pie and that's what you paid for, that's what you expected. But when you didn't get it, you definitely were disappointed. And so we need this consistency to fulfill the expectations of what we say we are and what we say we do. So these consistent factors, if we are consistent with our culture and our personality, brand personality, the way we message, the way that we visually communicate, all these things, then we are going to better shape our company in the direction we want it to go in. We're going to be able to shape that perception a little bit better so that people get what they expect. But the less consistent these slices of the pie are, or these factors are, the less consistent the perception is going to be overall across our various customers or prospects or just the market in general. And so we want to make sure that we serve up a very consistent pie as much as we can to everyone who interacts with us so that we can hopefully shape that overall perception that we desire. And I really love this quote from Marty Neumeier. He's the author of The Brand Gap. I really recommend this book highly to anyone who's interested in brand in general or just wants to do a brand exercise. But he really says an important thing, which is a brand is not what you say it is, it's what they say it is. And they is the people who interact with your brand, whether it's your customer, your client, the employees, the market, whoever it is that is interacting, they all have these unique perceptions based on how you are delivering all those slices of the pie. And just to prove that point, take a look at these logos. What's your immediate reaction or perception of these companies just from looking at these logos? Just think about that. What's your immediate reaction? And it's going to vary differently between different people depending on what you perceive about them, your future, your past interactions, what you believe they stand on, all that kind of stuff. Your perception is going to vary. And so it's just really interesting how we all have our different gut feelings about a brand. And that's exactly what Marty says. He says, a brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, a service, or a company. So the question is, what happens when you evaluate your company's brand pie? Are those pieces, are they in alignment? Or are you serving up different flavors and slices depending on the day of the week or the person you're talking to? What does that actually look like? And so when you ask that question, there's the real aspect of, do we need to change? Does something need to change? And it's really like if your overall company, your business, your product or service, the way that you are being perceived is creating a roadblock to your future goals, if there's something that's blocking you from the next level of success that you can't unlock unless you get more aligned with what you say and what you do, then some intentional change, I think, is going to need to happen. So it's really about getting real with the fact of, are we in alignment with what we say we do and who we are? And if we aren't, what pieces of the brand pie do we need to adjust in order to get back on track? And so that's where a brand refresh or a full rebrand will come into play. Now, the refresh, that is more of like your core identity, it's still pretty strong, but certain elements are going to need to be updated to stay current and relevant. And so for the most part, we're headed in the right direction, but there are some inconsistencies in that brand pie that need to shift in order for us to really reach that next level of success. So it's like improving the recipe of the pie and the execution. We're still eating the same type of pie, but we're just improving that recipe or we're executing it better. The rebrand is more comprehensive though. It's really about there are some foundational aspects of our brand that really no longer align with where we're trying to go or our market position or our business objectives. And so we really need to make some big changes that will require us to probably just go ahead and make a whole new pie. And so if the pie analogy isn't working for you, we can think about it in a different way. Let's think about it as like spring cleaning versus moving to a new house. So with the refresh, you're reorganizing, you're decluttering, you're freshening things up. Maybe you've even added some new decorative pieces or move things around, but you really just want to make things feel more organized and more functional. And then with the rebrand, it's like, hey, we're packing our bags, we're changing addresses. We need to just start a whole new chapter. And so both of these, the refresh and the rebrand, they're going to take work and they are going to both have noticeable changes, but the rebrand is more of an overhaul than the refresh. I think these are two important distinctions to make because a lot of times people use the word rebrand very loosely. Everything's a rebrand, a rebrand, a rebrand, but sometimes it really is just a refresh. However, both of them definitely take work. So let's dive into it a little bit deeper. A brand refresh, well, what is that? And how do we evaluate if that's what we need to do? Well, you should ask yourself some important questions. How about, does our visual identity, does it feel outdated? Is the logo, the color palette, or the typography, is it no longer resonating with the modern aesthetics or your target audience? Maybe these elements aren't even really functional anymore. For example, like maybe they're not functional for digital use. Maybe they don't fit well in social media or in the website. Maybe it's just not a flexible logo or it's not very versatile. Or maybe your nephew designed your logo for your company 10 years ago. It's just what you were working with at the time, but maybe it's time for an upgrade. Who knows? Is the messaging, is it inconsistent? Maybe your brand messaging, it lacks clarity, or maybe it varies across different platforms and that leads to confusion. So really check out if that messaging is inconsistent. Has our audience evolved in some ways? Maybe your target audience has shifted and your brand just needs some slight adjustments to align with their expectations. Have you experienced major strategic shifts? So maybe you have introduced a new product or a service that requires some subtle brand adjustments without really altering the core identity of the brand. And then ask yourself, are we just keeping up with the times? Maybe competitors have updated their branding, they're making progress, they're moving forward, but maybe your brand still appears less contemporary in comparison, still stuck in the past. That's another way to think about if you need to refresh your brand. And just think about some of the real world examples that we've seen where we've seen that shift and people either like it or they don't, but they've made it for a reason. A lot of times these reasons that I just listed to you because it's a strategic move to help them get in better alignment. Now, when it comes to the rebrand, we've got to ask these deeper questions to know if we need to do a more bigger overhaul than the refresh. Did we experience some type of significant business change, like a merger or acquisition, or a really, really big shift in the business model? Did that happen? Do we have a negative brand perception? That's a hard one, but got to be honest. Has your brand suffered from some reputational damage that just cannot be remedied through making some small adjustments? You really have to make some larger changes. Has our target audience, has it changed? Are you aiming to reach a completely different demographic or market segment? have our brand values, have they kind of gotten outdated? Is our mission, our vision, our values, have they really evolved into something different than what we started out with? And what we're doing right now really doesn't reflect any of the things that we said, in the past. Or vice versa, did we say we were going to be this or that, but then we're not really doing any of the things that we said uh, that who we were. We're not really living up to the mission that we created for ourselves, and we've gone in a totally different direction. Or are we maybe facing some legal issues? Maybe there's a trademark issue or a legal challenge that requires just a total change in the brand identity. And so we can definitely think about some of the real world examples of what has happened in the market, in the real world, for rebrands that we either love or we hate. Some of them have been successful, maybe not. It's up to you to decide, depending on how you feel about it. But these things definitely happen because foundational changes needed to be made. And so remember, whether you're doing the spring cleaning and redecorating, or if you are changing your whole entire address with that rebrand, either way, the goal is to really bring those collective pieces of the brand, the messaging, the core values, the culture, the personality, visual identity, all those things back into alignment, and to really differentiate yourself from the crowd. And so all of this effort is going to help intentionally shape the perception, remember, because brand is perception, that you need for your company to get past whatever roadblocks or stagnation that you might be facing. And so let's look at the checklist. How do you decide if you need to refresh or rebrand? Well, if you need to refresh, then look at these points and see if you check some of these boxes. Again, your visual identity is maybe outdated, the logo, the typography, the colors, the graphics, it's misaligned, or it's just old or outdated, or it just doesn't match up to what you're doing right now. It's not best representing what your company is about. The brand messaging, maybe it's inconsistent. You're not saying, it's not updated to what you're actually doing now, or it lacks clarity to what your products and services offer and who you are. So maybe that needs to change. Maybe your audience has evolved and we need to adjust the brand to evolve with the audience. Maybe you're just making some small changes, adding some offerings, some shifts to your product or your service, and you really need that to be reflected. Or just overall, you just feel that everything's just outdated and behind. Maybe we just need to refresh this to re-energize ourselves and to really bring eyes back onto us, and so that people can perceive that we are moving forward, that we are up to date and with the times, and that we are an innovative or still useful company or product or service that people need. Now, the full rebrand, and actually for the brand refresh, if you check at least 3 of those, I would say it would definitely be time for you to think about, consider refreshing your brand. So if you check at least 3 of those, which a lot of times when one is happening, something else is happening as well, then it may be time to refresh. Now, in terms of the full rebrand, again, ask yourself the questions of, have we gone at a major business change whether it's been an acquisition or a merger? Do we have a negative reputation that we just cannot come back from with little changes? Are we targeting an entirely new audience? Is the brand mission or the name or the values, did that change? And a lot of times the name is going to change with the full rebrand, because if you've been acquired by a company, that's probably going to require a name change to the name of the company you've been acquired by. If you have a really negative reputation, sometimes that name association is so strong that you can't continue using that name. You really have to go ahead and change your name and change other aspects to really start reshaping and reframing the minds of the people who have interacted with you, or new customers. So the name change is usually a big indicator that the full rebrand needs to happen. Maybe your current identity causes confusion, or maybe it's a legal issue with the trademark or some type of compliance issue. Again, if you're going to change legally the name, then that's probably going to require a full rebrand. And so, really, it could just be one of these things. One of these things could be cause for a rebrand, but definitely if you have two or more, I would say a rebrand is definitely calling. And so, again, I'm going to provide this checklist at the end so you can thoroughly go through this list and identify which ones may be relevant in your scenario. But the question now is, okay, Shannel, like I've got this checklist. I feel like I kind of know what direction might be possible for the future or for later on or maybe for now. But what am I supposed to do with this information? How do I move forward from here? Well, this is what I think you should do next. If you think you should take action based on needing a rebrand or a refresh, you need to do these three things in order to make sure that you are in the right direction before you take that action. So the first thing you need to do is definitely an audit. Evaluate that brand pie and really make sure and see what elements of that brand pie are misaligned, whether it's the messaging is off or the visual identity, or maybe our core values need to be updated and evolving. Really evaluate where the misalignment is taking place. And then actually do an audit, a deeper audit of your brand identity, looking deeply at some of the marketing collateral, the things that you're doing in the present, that you've been doing in the past. You don't have to go back, 10 years or anything like that, but maybe just go back the last 2 years and 1 or 2 years and really see the landscape of what you've been creating and how these things have been inconsistent in some ways, and really take a note of that and document that. Once you've done your audit, you also need to just have a basic understanding of what are the larger business goals? What is the business case for this rebrand and refresh? What goals are we having a hard time reaching without changing? Where have we been finding those roadblocks? And what are those core challenges that we face, that whether it's we need to get more funding, or we need to really tap into this next segment of the market, or we need to really change our reputation. If we don't make any changes, what's the consequence? And so really understanding why we are doing this exercise, what is the purpose of this refresh or rebrand project? And then really, you definitely have to gain buy-in. This is really, really, really critical. You really have to identify who are the major stakeholders that are going to need to get on board for this to happen. Because honestly, if the CEO, if the founder, whoever is at the top, if they're not bought into this refresh or rebrand initiative, and they're not convinced that this should happen, it's most likely not going to happen. And I definitely would not recommend trying to do any of these things without them being bought in, unless you just enjoy disaster and chaos. But really, the change has to come from the top. They have to be bought in, and really, it should be the CEO, the active founder, whoever that is. Really, they should be leading the charge and really trying to get buy-in from everyone else, all the other leaders, leadership, board, whoever, to really make sure that we're all on the same page about what we're going to do to lift this company to the next level. So really need to make sure that all the major stakeholders are bought in, that you've created established really strong business case for the rebrand and the refresh, and that you understand that there are going to be monetary resources that are needed, people resources, and time resources that are going to need to be committed to this project. Because even though it can be a very fulfilling project and a very influential project, it's definitely going to take some effort. And so we need to be able to start thinking about what that realistically is going to look like. Now, to go a little bit deeper, for how do we really build that rationale for buy-in? How do we really convince everyone else that this is something that we should be doing? Well, we can do a few things. We can align the initiative with our business objectives, which is really, really important. This is not just about us creating a new logo, a fancy new logo because we don't like it, or updating the color. Like, we really are trying to evolve our brand so that we can be in line with our business goals, our customers' expectations, and our market position. We're really doing this as a strategy. We're not just doing this to make things look pretty or anything like that. It's really about us not limiting our growth in ourselves and really just moving forward. Show evidence of the misalignment. So we really need to show that, hey, there are some things that aren't working here. So put a spotlight on the outdated visual identity or the messaging. Show that there's maybe declining engagement in certain areas. Show that there's been customer confusion. You can even use real quotes from or reviews from stakeholders or customer feedback to really build that urgency. You can show the social proof of what's going on around you. Show how your competitors are continually growing and becoming more modern, and we're staying the same, but they're reaping the benefits of growing and changing. And then show the case studies of companies that have rebranded or refreshed successfully, and show what they changed, show why they changed, and definitely give evidence of the results of what they got out of that, what growth that they receive, what clarity was established, how much cultural relevance came out of that, did the revenue grow, did they get more opportunities after that, soon after that, what happened? Definitely anticipate that there's going to be objections and be ready to address those. So some common concerns are going to be, well, it's too expensive, it's too risky, our customers are already used to us doing it this way. But have some responses ready, like, well, the bigger risk is really us staying stuck with a brand that no longer represents who we are, and the perception of us is going to just keep going in the wrong direction. Or we can mitigate the risk first by doing a refresh, doing some of the phases of a refresh, and then just testing maybe the messaging first. Maybe we'll just update the messaging, and then we'll see how that works, and then continue on with the full refresh or rebrand. So think about some ways that you can mitigate the risk and just kind of get the process started in a way that makes sense, that will eventually, they'll say, we might as well just go ahead and go full out and just do this thing. And then definitely just reframe this as a story of growth. We don't want this to be a burden or like, oh, this is something that we have to do, like another checklist item that's just annoying. We want to get it over with. We don't want to look at it as a sign of even failure or, oh, we just did such a terrible job that now we have to change everything. Reframe it more as like, this is our natural evolution of growth. We've gotten this far with what we've done. We've done the best that we could, but now it's just time for us to move into another chapter. Simply as that. And just really emphasize that this is about getting more mature, gaining that momentum. It's not about the missteps and the mistakes. It's really more about the momentum and the maturity that we are looking to have. So these are some ways that you can get that buy-in, which is extremely important for making sure that you can move forward with confidence, knowing that we're all on the same page. Now, once you have that buy-in, you guys are saying, hey, we're ready to do this. We are ready to do this rebrand and refresh. You're definitely going to have to have this formula in place to get started and plan for success. The right people, the right process, and definitely the right attitude. So for the right people, these people are going to have to be competent, absolutely, and committed to this project. So they're going to have the time and the energy to focus on this and prioritize this brand project for however long it may take, whether it's 3 months or maybe it's 6, depending on the scope and how big your company is. They have to definitely be highly skilled in their area of expertise and just be willing to learn and grow in the process. And you're going to have to definitely establish a core brand team and other internal members that are really pivotal to helping this move along. And so there's different roles that may overlap, but you're definitely going to need a project lead, someone who's leading the charge, a project sponsor, someone who's going to be an advocate and go around the company and say like, hey, this is what we're doing, get excited about it. Like someone who's going to always be pushing for this initiative and really being the biggest cheerleader, which is usually the CEO or someone of that nature. You're going to need copywriting. You're going to need the graphic design or the web design. You're going to need some key roles in there to really have the people who are really going to execute this work. And then you're going to also need other people resources, like probably a legal team, especially if you're doing a rebrand with the name change, thinking about trademarks and filing different legal entities, uh, maybe procurement or regulatory team that helps with the contractors and the vendors that you're using, or registration forms. If your name is changing, they've got to be able to kind of change these things around with it. And even your finance and accounting team might help you with, your payroll system or your tax IDs, or just being able to update your name and update some of these things in these different systems that you've been using. So it can be a big overhaul, a big push, especially with the rebrand. But if you have the right people in place, they can start to prepare for what needs to change and how we're going to phase these things out. Definitely going to need the right process. So the bigger the company is, the bigger the rebrand or refresh initiative is, the more organized you're definitely going to have to be, because you need a solid brand process from start to finish. This is not one of those things where you want to guess or figure it out as you go. You definitely want to be organized and be moving forward. So keeping everything well organized and really understanding the expectations of what does success look like for us once we complete this process, and then how do we continue to maintain this brand once we have completed the initial kind of change. And then definitely the right attitude, right? We're going to all need to be mentally prepared for what we're about to partake in. And again, instead of it being a burden, we have to be excited about it. It may be a little bit nerve wracking, or maybe we're a little nervous about the change we're about to make, but really it should be more about excitement and energy and commitment to really try to help shape this perception in a way that's going to move our company forward. So we should all be aligned in why we're doing this, and we should all be enthusiastic and work with good intentions while we are working on this project. And so I do believe that all these aspects definitely go much deeper than what I'm saying today. And that's why I really dive into it much more with my upcoming book this year. It's called Brand Restart. But I do believe if you have the right people, the right process, the right attitude in place, you can absolutely succeed in your refresh or rebrand project. And so this is the key. Plan, plan, plan. They say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so definitely with a big project like this, the planning is so important. But it definitely can be done, absolutely, because I've seen it happen. I've been part of the process, and it's definitely worth it. So with all that, what are the key takeaways that I want you to take? If you didn't take away anything else, if you didn't remember anything else, I want you to remember this. That brand is definitely perception. What we perceive is what we get. Perception, they say, is reality, unfortunately, but that's what it is. So we want to be perceived in a way that helps us move forward, helps us to achieve our goals, and helps us to really just grow our business or our product or our service. So brand is perception, and we need to work to help shape that perception. We can't control it, but we can help shape it. If we see misalignment in that brand pie, if things aren't lining up the way that they need to be, if who we say we are doesn't align with what we do, then we're probably going to at some point encounter a fork in the road where we're going to need to do a rebrand or a refresh. And then once we decide to do either one, we want to make sure that we audit the landscape of what we've been doing, understand the purpose of why we're doing this, make sure we get buy-in that starts from the top of the organization, and really make a solid plan of action before we actually start executing, so that we can be confident that we're going to get through this and that we're going to have a great outcome. But really the most important thing is that we definitely got to tell the truth, right? We got to tell the truth about who we really want to be, who we are, who we really want to be, and are we going to actually align our actions with who we say we are? Are we just going to make up stuff and just go, business as usual, or we're really going to sit back, evaluate, think about what has been successful, what has not been successful, what are some of the things that we've been doing that aren't helpful anymore, where have we made some missteps, not so that we can just be down on ourselves, but really just be honest about what is it that we want to represent? Do we want to be a company, a brand that really is something that people can trust and that they feel we are keeping it real and that we do what we say and that we mean what we say? So telling the truth is the foundation for all of this. If you're willing to do that, then I think this project can definitely be successful for you moving forward. So tell the truth. So there's 3 things I definitely want you to do, at least one of these 3 things before you go. If you at least want to get that checklist, please go to this website, thebrandrestart.com, or scan the QR code, whichever one works better for you. I'll put this on the screen as well. But go ahead and go to this website, thebrandrestart.com, to at least get that checklist, download that, and really evaluate if this seems like something that your company or your business needs to start thinking about. And the really cool thing about rebrand or refresh for businesses, there's a very, very similar framework that you can use for your personal brand as well. Really, it's really about the things that what I say and what I do, does it align, and the perception that I want people to have of me, not because I'm trying to gain the approval of the world, but because I want to radiate authentically and be my best self. How can I do that? And are there changes that I need to make internally? A lot of this stuff can be applied to you personally as well, I believe. So definitely download that checklist. If you want to learn more about the process of rebranding, refreshing, and really get down to the business of what is the actual process that you need to go through in order to execute these large brand projects, join the interest list for my upcoming book, Brand Restart, because I'm going to be sharing all those things that I've learned along the way and giving that to you so that you can be the brand hero for your company. And then if you're already doing your brand, if you've already got one established that you feel like is working pretty well, but you need to actually be able to establish and those guidelines for really implementing this consistently, making sure that the company is doing the right things with the messaging and the visual identity, and you need some help with that, join me next week for a do-it-yourself brand guidelines workshop where I'm going to show you the formula for a really great brand guideline, what needs to be included, and give you that template so that you can move forward with action. You don't have to guess. You have the blueprint in front of you. So I hope that you do one of these 3 things at least. Please scan the QR code or go to this website and take your pick. But hopefully one of these things will help you out. Please leave in the comments if there was anything here that was a nugget for you or helped you, or if you have a question, please feel free to drop a comment or send me a message. But overall, I'm really, really thankful that you all were able to take some time during your lunch break to spend some time with me. Hope you learned something new. And I just want to thank you for just giving me your attention for just a little bit of time. And just remember that it's never too late to restart. So if you were thinking about making that change for your company or a product, or even for yourself, you've got time. So do what you got to do, and I'll be there to support you along the way. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And I think I'm going to go get some lunch myself now. All right. Take care.